Hey, this is Gene. I had to redo this because I got a phone call in and I have to start over again. So I try to be as eloquent as I was the first 14 minutes of that video. But the reason why I'm talking to you right now is I did a video this morning about Tucker and Nick Fuentes basically destroying the internet. So what we have is the day after, right? And we have the fallout of that conversation. A lot of people are upset with Tucker because he didn't go deep enough, right? And there's some truth to that. I said in my video that there were a lot of stuff he just talked about the surface level. They really talked about January 6th. They didn't talk about the no-fly stuff. Didn't talk about Nick with his attitude sometimes when he talks about the Jewish people, how he believes at some point he was an identitarian or a paleo-conservative, white nationalist type of thing. They didn't go deeply into that. What I thought as I watched that, it was a Generation X mentorship going on for Nick Fuentes. I think that's what it was. He wanted to take off the hard sell of Nick and make it more palatable for normies or people in the right wing. And also, I think that Tucker has an issue with the Daily Wire, and so he wanted to have that story to come out as well about how Nick had to go through the issue he had to deal with the Daily Wire. The issue I'm talking about now is what happened on Jason Whitlock's Fearless show today. He, of course, had to talk about it because he had talked about Nick before. He basically said Nick was not biblical, probably just another guy in his basement, not really mean anything, that type of thing. He sat and listened to him, and he listened to the first part of it, where he talks about what happened to him and how he tried to get destroyed by Daily Wire, and he compared his same life issues that he had when he was going through this, right? Because he wasn't a great student. Obviously, Nick is more eloquent, more intelligent, certainly a higher class of intellect than Jason is. I mean, I still like Jason. I watch him. Especially the last 10 years, he's changed his life around. But he said that he made that it was a comparison between what they went through. They had to deal with black leftists because he called out Colin Kaepernick. So I sat there and I was listening to this stuff, and I'm like, he's actually comparing his life experience with Nick, and each time he showed a clip, then he would say it happened to me. And I'm like, what do you do? I said, Tucker said the same thing. He said, Media Matters went after it as well. If you look at the Nick Fuentes interview, he talked about how Media Matters had a hit piece on him because Daily Wire went after him because Nick was asking questions about Israel. And he was called an anti-Semite by Ben Shapiro. And then at one time he talked about the Muslims, and he said he was for the ban, right? So he's like, oh, we got to go to Media Matters because it's a leftist organization and they won't like it and they'll do something about it. So Daily Wire, Cassie Dillon did the stuff and sent it to Media Matters. So Tucker basically said the same thing. Same thing happened to me. I got all this stuff from them, and yeah, same thing. And I'm like, and I said in my video, I said, yeah, but you were already multimillionaire when this happened. This kid was still a freshman in college, had no real following, and all this shit happened to him, and they tried to destroy him before he ever really blew up. And the thing is, you can't stop the truth from coming out. And Nick went through all the stuff that we went on the last 8 years after the first Trump administration, the January 6th, to the travel ban or the no-flies thing, almost being arrested, defending himself so somebody tried to come into his house, the assassination, all that stuff. And then you have people like Tucker saying, well, I don't know why you're getting all upset about all this. If somebody says something to me, I'll just let it go and all that stuff. And like, okay, you're 40, 50, 60, you're worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's different than being a freshman in college and realizing you're not really doing well in college. After you did this stuff, you kind of blew up because you beat the student body president. You just destroyed him, and now they want you to be part of, the next Daily Wire things, send you to Israel, pray at the wall, that ritual that they have to go through. And I'm like, okay. And then Jason Whitlock did the same thing. He compared his life experiences, that I was trying to stop what happened to Colin Kaepernick. I was a critic of that, and I had to deal with black leftists saying they want to get me out of my show. And I'm like, you were already known at that time. You were already multi-millionaire. You had no kids, and then this is not the same. It's not. And the issue I have is he stopped it there. And then he talks about, well, there are other issues that I have issues with. He talked about the no-fly list. And that, well, no, the reason why he got knocked off there because he wouldn't put his mask on. And then he talked about losing all his ability to get money. He said, well, that's because we had $400,000 in the bank, and we thought there was a lot of wire fraud that was going on, so that's what happened. And it's like Jason wouldn't tie the dots and say this is a political operation against Nick because what he's talking about. And he would have talked about anything else, but not because it was Nick. And then he talked about he's not biblical. And as we all know, who understands Nick, that Nick could sit across the street or across the table against Jason and will destroy him when it talks about biblical stuff. Jason couldn't even, there's no way. He'd have to have his preachers and pastors right next to him to deal with what Nick would come with. He just would. But he talked about his size. He said he's a small man. He's like a nerd, and he's in his basement kind of thing, and he's got deviance type of thing. It's the same thing that Tucker did, saying he's a guy in his basement, almost saying he's gay. And it's like, is this what we want the people on the right to say about our young generation who are going through so much shit right now because the whole society is against young white men? And really all that Nick does at this point, he advocates for his race and young men because they've been destroyed, right? And it was nice later in that interview that they talked about stuff like this. They talked about the porn addiction. They talked about family and toxic femininity and all that stuff. My issue is I don't like it when people want to be critical of Nick. Now, Nick, again, could destroy any of them, right? He doesn't really need my support. And again, I don't agree with everything that the man says. I don't. But you have to understand that the stages of his life where he's at. When he's 18, 19, he was being edgy and a troll a lot of times and have memes and all that stuff. And a lot of that got President Trump into office, the meme wars. And then he became more and more going down deep down the rabbit hole, and he kind of like flirted with the alt-right a little bit and was on these shows talking to Richard Spencer and having all that stuff like that. And then as he comes out of that, he becomes more mature. He said we shouldn't vote for Trump this time, whether you liked it or not. And I said I put my point on that the first video I did today. But he's maturing. But all along, this man always had said that I wanted to be where these guys are, that I want my views to be weighted against everybody else's views and see where it goes, because he knew deep and down inside that his views would carry the day, and it's going to carry the day. You can't have the whole society just go away and you take away all what made the society great, and you continually push it down and say it's the problem, that there's not going to be some sort of blowback. And the question is, and you continually see this all the time, for 20, 30, 40 years, they've been trying to hold down young men, young white men. And the thing is, they know that they're losing that right now. They know that dam is about to burst. So they tried to stop him early in his career. And I mean, Jason made a good point when he said he was developed in the womb, and they said he was saying certain things and they really liked him in the womb. And when he started questioning stuff, they aborted him in the womb. They tried to stop him then because he was talking truth. And the problem I had with Jason is that he went to a physical characteristic type of thing, saying that Jason is this and that, and with no real truth when that, okay, he was an athlete, Jason was, but are we going to compare, okay, he was a better athlete than Nick, but Nick is clearly the better intellect. He just is. And then also Tucker did the same thing, trying to dismiss him. And this is the problem you can't do, because what he's saying is true, all right? Not everything is right, okay, in my mind. Sometimes it goes too far, but again, that's the folly of being youth, the risk taking that you make as a young man. And again, he has always said this, that he wants to be at the table and have his viewpoints challenged. The truth is that there's nobody that can really beat him there. And the people that are really worried about it is the ones that have the power right now on both sides of the aisle. And they are just, they're afraid by his power, his influence that he has on young men. Because really, young white men and even black men who also like Nick, and I'll talk about that as well, they're being waken up. You can't just shut it down. And the thing is, we all see what's happening in Europe right now, that it's being taken over demographically. And it's going to happen here in the United States. And you just cannot expect the native population not to stand up and do something about it. Now, I will say this. I had some problems because right after that, Jason decided we're going to pivot to this and have like a discussion. He only talked about that first part that somehow compared to his life. I mean, why are you comparing your life to Nick? It's not the same. It's just not, okay? You went to school as an athlete. I'm sure everything was given to you pretty much. You could just get through school, get C's all the way through. They probably gave you C's just because. And the same thing happened. I mean, it's not the same thing. And the shit that you had to deal with because you were probably on the left for a long time until you woke up when you're late 30s and 40s and you hit something that was hard to deal with because you had friends that were leftists that didn't like you because you said something about Colin Kaepernick. It's not the same of being threatened or trying to be destroyed before you even got anywhere. Okay, it's not the same thing. What I did like is that later on, they had this little panel thing, and they had a preacher that I like, is a good dude from Tennessee, I think. Shamik Camille, black girl, but she's funny. And then TJ Moe, who's just milk coast white dude, right? And he's sitting there and say, well, he wouldn't go on with Candace, but he did go on Candace. It was a hit job by Candace, and he still portrayed himself realistically well. And when you walk into a show and they start throwing clips and what did you mean by this? What do you mean by this? What do you mean by this? Tucker doesn't do that because it's not relevant. And what was strange about it, he says, I like how Tucker did what he did. He didn't do that. But he said, why didn't he go on Candace? But he did. Now, is he talking that he should have went on there the second time because Candace wanted to do it again, apparently? You know, Candace put it behind a paywall. You know, and I like Candace, I do. I think that her heart's in the right way in a lot of things. She's wrong about the moon. She's wrong about Nick. And I'm not talking about this whole chemistry that Nick and her has. Similar. It's weird, but he has it. And I'm not gonna say anything bad about Candace. I like her overall. But again, TJ Moe just milk toast type of middle just. But then you get Shamika, and I didn't wait to listen to the pastor. I'm sure the pastor would have gave Nick grace, but Shamika Mel said that I liked everything he said. I liked the fact that he was 10 toes down of what he believes, and he believes in free speech. And I was just, and again, I think that Nick has this way with young men or young black women. I just do. I think that they like that he is an alpha when it comes to that. He's not an alpha on the field, right? He's not going to go up there and beat you up, but from the mind, which is obviously bigger than anything he can do on the field of play, he is clearly an alpha there, and you can't get him off his game. And the thing is, what he knows, it's not like he has to, he will tell you exactly what he's thinking, right? And he's like, if you want to tell me that I hate the Jews, then I'm going to tell you, no, I don't. But I have an issue with how they are and how Jewishness is in the United States and how it affects the United States of America and the Western world in general. And that's not anti-Semitic. Talking the truth is not anti-Semitic. But anyway, I don't like how he did it. I don't like how Jason Whitlock, I love the fact that he came out and talked about it, as he should do. But just to basically compare his life story to his, and then we move on to the other things and said, well, he lied about this, he lied about this, he lied. When all these things were veritably true, did Nick get in trouble because he wouldn't put his mask on? He wouldn't be the first person at that time that had that problem, right? But he was clearly on a no-fly list because what happened at January 6th. And Tucker didn't talk about that. Fair enough. He should have talked about it. He lost all his ability to make money because of the fact what happened on January 6th, and also the ability to talk about what he believes to be true was he was on somebody's list, and when they had the ability to take it, they did it. And this was back at the same times that we're talking about the conservatives were getting, the IRS was going after them. And then apparently that's a real story, but when the government goes after him because of he spouts a certain thing, then he's a bad thing. And apparently he's telling everybody at the Capitol to go inside. Now, he's not a Fed that did that. He was well away from all that. He was just he didn't say go inside. It's like, and the fact is they just lie by omission about what he was being charged with, I guess, because nothing happened to him. Now, he had to deal with it. He had to have lawyers and all that stuff. And this is another way they destroy you. They did this to Trump. They try to destroy you that way. But he had enough money, enough people that would help him, people, his gropers that would give him money to deal with stuff like that. It was disingenuous when it came from Jason. And TJ Moe, I don't think he knows enough about him. I do like the fact that Samika liked him. Again, I think that happens quite a bit. There's several videos 7-8 years ago when he was on college campuses and these black girls go up and talk to him, and he tells them to just say, "You're probably the problem." It's like the guy has got. He doesn't have brass balls. He's got steel balls. He's got titanium balls when he talks to people. And all I would say to this, Jason Whitlock, you'll never see this. I'm only about an hour away from you, hour and a half away from you. Have the balls to have him on your show, and give him the interview that you want to give him. Talk about Generation 6. Talk about what happened on the flight. Talk about if there's anything in the background. Talk about his deviant behavior when he talks to, I don't know, anime stuff. Yeah, there's been some rumors about that. But again, what 18, 19, 20-year-old boy doesn't have some sort of shit in their porn history or something like that? What he's talking about is true, though, right? All the stuff that he talks about, for the most part, is true. And he has pushed everybody to his viewpoint. That should be celebrated. We shouldn't be talking about he's a bad, small dude, nerdy. What is that? That's not biblical, Jason. You can't sit there and say that he has no biblical worldview when he clearly has been a Catholic and a Christian longer than you have. He just has been. And he goes to Mass every day. I mean, come on, man. You need to do better, okay? Be a man, have him in your studio, and have a face-to-face. Now, I think he will do it because he's that type of dude, but you have to show him grace like he's given to. I mean, yes, each of these guys talk to each other. He's talked about you. You talked about him. None of you know the full story. If you really want to have that interview, if you really want to find out what he's about, because if you think he's a cancer to the right wing, that he's telling our young people the wrong message, then have him on your show. You guys have a good day. Thank you for watching. You guys have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk to you guys later.